know what? Actually, you are going to have a match tonight. Yeah. And he's like, and it's going to be with Brock Lesnar for the world title.
Rewind, Recap, Relive. For over 50 episodes, the revolutionary force in wrestling interview.
For some reason, I just did a quick search, and I did not know that you actually made your debut. Is that true against Brock Lesnar for the WWE? That never came up, and Brock is one of my favorites, but I've never been in there with him, and I don't know how you feel about Brock. How was it making your debut against Brock Lesnar?
If you're looking for great Brock Lesnar matches, this is not one of them. But I remember we were in, I think, Hartford, Connecticut. I could be wrong. Either which way, I was doing a series of house show matches on the road, which is usually how they kind of start to integrate you from developmental, because I was at OVW at the time. Then they bring you up and you start doing matches on the house shows, and they might use you for a dark on TV, they might not, whatever. So I was doing house show matches and then also dark matches, mostly tagging with Brian. And then we got to, I'm going to go with Hartford. We got to Hartford, and this is before the dress code, mind you.
Oh, what's the...
Well, so at the time there was like, you just show up as you are, and I wasn't dressed like a slob, but I was just dressed kind of like an athlete. And I remember Arn Anderson comes up to me, he's like, you know what you're doing tonight? I was like, no. And he was like, big night for you. You got one with, like, he told me, he was like, you got this pre-tape with Vince and Sable. And I was like, me. Okay. And he was like, you got Brock. I was like, literally looking for the hidden camera, man, because it was just so out of nowhere at the moment, because I wasn't sure. But there was a thread of something in this. So what it was weeks prior, Brian had done something in like catering where they were doing like a food fight, and he ended up getting chocolate syrup all over like Vince's suit, and Vince basically threw him to the wolves, and he got like slaughtered by Brock Lesnar, and he was off TV for a few weeks. So fast forward to this match, mind you, this is how ridiculous these segments are. I'm a local guy from Hartford, Connecticut. This is my hometown. They said it had to be my hometown, which I got that changed as soon as I could. Sorry, nothing against Hartford, but ATX. And so the segment was Vince and Sable are in Vince's office, dressing room, whatever the fuck, and there's a knock, and I just walk in, or he's like, yeah, or something, and I walk in. Like, how lax is security
Right.
when a seemingly local, non-contracted nobody can just walk up to Vince's office door and knock and just walk on in? And he's like, what the hell do you want? Or something. He like says something, and I'm like, my name's Paul Leonard. I'm from Hartford. I'd really love to wrestle tonight. And he's like, "Bah." And he's like, you know what? Or he's like, get out of here. Like, how dare you? It's some bullshit. But it was like so weird because it's like the first thing I'm doing, and it's with Vince and Sable. Like, how much bigger does it get than that in terms of status, right? And so it was just so surreal. But Arn Anderson, I remember earlier in the day, he was like, you're going to wear that? And I was like, yeah, what? Come on, what? And so I went across the street to some, like, Brooks Brothers or we were downtown, and it was, like, some department store that was way too expensive for my budget. But what choice did I have? Because I had, like, no time, and I bought some outfit that I never wore again. And anyways, long story short, Brock's like, you know what? Actually, you are going to have a match tonight. Yeah. And he's like, and it's going to be with Brock Lesnar for the world title. And I'm like, oh, God, right? And
he's like, you'll be the champion. Like, it has a nice ring to it. WWE champion.
And like, it's so weird now that I think about it, thinking back on it, because it was all downhill from there. But yeah, so then I went out and Brock was cool, and I went out there with Arn, and we went over some stuff, and I think when Brock understood that I was completely willing to lend myself to whatever he wanted to do, then there became a respect there, believe it or not, and I was like, he was like, yeah, what if you lure him with the belt, and then you catch him with the clothesline cheap shot? And I was like, well, yeah, if he does that, I could 360 and really. He's like, really? I was like, yeah, I could do that. He's like, oh shit, cool. And so that kind of impressed him. But man, that F5, like, he hits hard too, and like that F5, there are certain things in wrestling where, for the most part, you can kind of time your fall. It sounds weird, but like if I take a clothesline or a tackle or a drop kick or something where I'm taking a bump in the ring, you can typically time your fall. Like, and it just becomes second nature. There are certain things that happen, whether you're coming off the top rope or whatever, where maybe your timing is a little more difficult to get to that point of impact, because that's when you kind of have to kind of tense up your core and, so on and so on. It's all a matter of protecting yourself. But so that F5 though, that was like the closest thing I've ever been to being in a tornado.
Wow.
Like, I was completely discombobulated because I was so light compared to this. I mean, this guy's a freak of nature, right? Like, he could tear down a barn with his own hands. He probably has, and like rebuilt it, right? Because he's like, I didn't like it. And then I was so dizzy, and he like threw me out. He pinned me, he throws me out of the ring, and I like landed in the ropes because I was still all kind of just messed up. So then he goes to F5 me into the ring post, and Brian comes in from out of nowhere and pushes him into the ring post, and he drops me. I'm all fucked. And then he picks Brian up, and he grabs Brian and like beels him into the ring post, and it's on the floor. They're on the floor, and he just grabs him and like throws him. Brian takes this jumping back bump up against the ring post. It's still one of the sickest bumps I've ever seen. And yeah, that was my debut. So then next thing you knew, weeks later, we were teaming on Velocity and whatever, and they were looking at us that way. But yeah, that was and ever since, Brock and I were always on like a cool like nod and have a chuckle and like whatever, and he didn't really do that with too many people, so I always kind of took that as like a real cool kind of badge of honor, or badge of acceptance, especially so early on.
Rewind, recap, relive. For over 50 episodes, the revolutionary force in wrestling interviews.